going to start with blunt force trauma. What makes blunt force trauma different than sharp force trauma? Y'all tell me. Yeah, it's a non-sharp object. Okay? So the first one that we're going to do is we are going to do a abrasion first. Yeah, it's a scraping movement. So in this case, we're going to use a cheese grater. Why? Because this has a similar texture to what you would see on an asphalt road. So, imagine you're falling down. And it's hard to tell what's going on, but the nice thing is, you see all of that little bit of fat right there? So that is an abrasion. Okay. All right, so here's the thing. Whenever we deal with any sort of blunt force trauma, we're going to have possibly a contusion. So I need you to go ahead and just hit it a couple times hard. All right, that's good. All right. Now, if you notice, you can already see the indentation coming into play. Okay? If this was real tissue, if it was human tissue with blood still flowing through it, you would already see a bruise forming. This is a contusion going to a laceration. We are going to look at ribs. Why? Because ribs are the easiest thing where we actually can see bone breakage on this. All right, so Javier, what you're going to do is, like I said before, pork tissue is the closest thing that we have to human tissue that's readily available. Also, unlike people, it's pretty delicious, and there's no moral or ethical issues with it. Okay, so what you're going to do is I'm going to give you a club, and you are going to basically break these ribs. Okay? Now, the club I'm giving you is this. Now, this is going to be bone fracture because there is no sharp points to this. This is still a dull point. If I rub this along my skin, it's pointless. Actually, that didn't sound right. It doesn't have any points to it, but it is not technically a sharp item. Okay, so I want you to basically keep hitting the bones until you see little pink tissue coming out. Okay, go for it. All right, stop. Okay. We have broken bones. So right there, did y'all hear the crunchy? Okay, so Javier destroyed the bones. What you're looking at here is this pink tissue is the marrow that is inside your bones. Now we're going to try and crush something. Now, crushing is not super common. So all we're going to do is I'm going to drop this heavy piece of steel on here and we're going to simulate crushing something. Let's do that one more time. Okay, the bones are broken in here. I can feel the bones are broken even though I can't see them. So this would be an example of a crush injury. Let's do it one more time. Yeah, that would hurt your toe. To show you basically what it looks like when you actually do deal with the strangulation victim. Okay, so obviously I don't have exactly what I need, but we're going to roll this meat up, and I am going to basically put it in a noose, and we're going to cause an abrasion on it. All right, now understand, if someone is literally struggling for their lives, and they're breathing, and they're dying, then you're going to have this area in here where it's going to be flat, and you're going to see abrasive tissue. The other thing is, this will literally embed itself into the tissue, and if you find the rope or whatever is being used, you can see a clear line of strangulation. So when you look at a strangulation line, it tends to look like that. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to simulate the side of somebody. Okay? So we're going to make this along the thick side. And I'm going to cut this to make it fit a little better. Now, first thing I want you to do is I just gently, just get a good feel for it. Okay, so there's some resistance there, right? Okay, now understand that any time that we're dealing with this kind of thing, are people just casually stabbing? Is it just like, I'm going to stab you? No, they are angry, they're upset. So what I need you to do is I need someone to get out their phone, and you're going to take a 10-second timer for me. And what's going to happen is you are going to stab non-stop for 10 seconds in this general area. Like, you can go off here and here, but I want you to generally stab right in this tissue area. Here, I'll even put a slightly bigger piece of tissue there if you wander off. I'm going to say go, and then you're going to go.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, go. Stop. Okay. How many times do you think you stabbed?
I don't know.
I lost count at 20.
I stopped at 27.
Okay, so in 10 seconds, she got 27 holes in this person's body. Okay, and this was with pretend emotions. Imagine if it was real emotions going forward, would there be even more damage? Very much so. All right, you can go ahead and take the gloves off. Thank you so much for participating. Okay, incised wounds tend to be just sharp wounds. So what does that mean? That means that depending on the angle of your blade, depending on how deep something is, a slash wound can be pretty serious, okay? So this has got a relatively small blade. It's fairly short, has a stout angle. Much wider, okay? And this is in between. Now, I'm only gonna show one demo of this, and then I'll let you, since you keep asking, and you're standing right there, of this. Now, understand, this is an incised wound. This is not much bigger than your standard pocket knife. It's a little pointier because what it's designed for, but it's gonna cut like a pocket knife. And that means that just right there, that little bit that I only touched with that much of the edge has caused about that much damage. Now, if I'm a little more focused, you can basically see there's a line forming. Now, let's do a little, actually I think I did the backside. Let me try that again. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. So now we're gonna move to something that's a little closer to a steak knife size. Now all I want you to do is I just want you to do a slash across. Okay, now understand, this is not much bigger than a steak knife. This is about the same size. Now for those of you going in the military, do you know what the most common form of force-on-force violence is in the military besides just standard punching and assault? People taking MRE kitchen knives. People have been stabbed with the old school World War I, World War II era butter knife more than almost anything else because it's an effective tool and it's got a thin blade. Now let's say we actually went to something a little bit larger, and this is more along the line with you'd see with a K-bar size or an MK9. You get a Band-Aid, about 45 of them. The width of the blade, the angle of the blade makes a huge difference on how big everything else happens with this. Okay, and that's always going to be something of concern. Like we said, is basically the guts would be coming out. So if I'm sitting here, okay, would guts be pouring out of you right now if that was the case? Very much so. Thank you, Chef.
You're welcome. Is that it?
I want you to just kind of let it drop into it and just kind of feel the weight that you have. No, not hard. No, just gravity. Let gravity control it. Okay. You can kind of feel the weight of it. Now, the thing is with an axe, all the weight is forward. And now what I want you to do is you're going to, let's make sure I get your hands set up right. Okay, one hand here, and you're basically going to slam down into it, but don't let the spike hit you in the face. Okay? All right, go ahead and hit. This is a chop. There you go. All right, so this is a perfect example of a chop wound. It's gone through the bone like it's no big deal, and it has definitely caused some pretty serious traumatic damage with this stuff. Okay? All right, so this time, same thing. I just want you, one hand, pop it in that spike into it. Okay, now understand that that would cause a hole in your brain. So now we're going to see if we could literally come close to an amputation for this or a decapitation, because we don't have a neck bone. Neck bones would be a lot of fun, but we're not fooling with that today. So we're going to see if we can get through this. Regardless, would you get a partial amputation or a partial decapitation, even if it doesn't go all the way through? Mm-hmm. Yes. Did it go through bone like it wasn't even a big deal?